Good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 13th, 2021, and I almost said 2020, and God knows we don't want to relive that year again. I'm here today with Myra Bufka. I'm really excited about this show. I think it's going to be a really interesting one and a lot of fun. And if you haven't, we'll pick and her daughter that I used for the little we to because my system's not and we'll go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and read my bio and we'll see if the internet is going to be not. This should be fun. It's like a little lottery. Yay. Anyway, Myra is the owner of First Place Printing along with her husband, Brian. They are located in Montgomery City, Missouri, about an hour west of St. Louis. She's the mother of 6 kids, 2 sons, 4 daughters, aged 31 and 24, his, 19, 17, and 13, hers, and 3, theirs. And Brian started the business in 2010, and they met a year later in 2011 when he did some shirts for a little league football team that she helped to coach. She worked full-time in accounting and customer service and helped out as needed at the shop until March 2017 when she packed up their 9-day-old baby, learned how to manually screen print, and began working full-time for the business. So let's bring Myra in. Whoops. And there's Myra. Hi, Myra. Good to see you.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Christine.
And so
Thank
far,
you for having me.
Oh, hey, I'm so glad you agreed to do this because I love talking to people, and I knew you sort of. We'd met in person.
Right.
We followed each other on Facebook and everything, but I haven't had a chance to talk to you for a long time. So this is going to be really fun.
Right.
One of the things I got to ask though from your bio, 9 days after you had your baby, you went to learn how to screen print. What's up?
I did. Well, we had baby. We had Ella in March of 2017, and I had a C-section. It was C-section number 3, so I kind of knew the drill of how recovery after a C-section. 9 days after I had her, we had a 20-year-old kid that worked for us full-time that did all of our screen printing. And we had 650 Little League soccer shirts due that Friday. So this was 11 a.m. on a Monday. By 8 a.m. Saturday, all soccer shirts are due for this league. 11 a.m., this kid walks over to Brian, says, "You're a great boss. I really like working for you, but I don't want to do this job anymore," and got his stuff and walked out the door.
Oh my God.
So Brian calls me, so we still have sponsors that are sending us artwork. We still have, they're still adding kids to rosters that were, he's still adding shirts to order for, so he's still trying to do the doesn't even have all the screens made for all these shirts. And now he has to try to figure out how to screen print all this on top of that. Oh. So he calls me and he goes, "I guess I'm just never coming home." He just quit. I don't have anybody else that can do all this screen printing. I love you. I'll see you in a month. I don't know what else to do. And so I get off with him, and I look down at Olivia sleeping in her little bassinet, and like, "All right, kid, we're gonna go learn how to screen print." So I packed her up and I drove 20 minutes to the shop and walked in the door, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And I handed him a baby and said, "Show me how to screen print." And I started. I had never picked up a squeegee. I didn't know how to register screens on the press. I didn't know anything about, anything.
Wow.
You have to get things done. You have to get things done. You make it work. So that's what I did.
That's like an intensive course.
It is trial by error for sure. I am sure if I went back and looked at those shirts that I made 4 years ago, that ink is probably on those shirts is super thick, and I probably smashed ink all the way to China through those screens. But they got done. They had shirts for that Saturday. I got all 650 shirts done. So that was the important thing. But we've got him, and I've been here ever since. So,
well, I mean, I think the story you've just told us is like what a business owner's life is like. You do what you have to do to make the, to make the business go. So does Olivia know how to screen print yet?
She does not. She's not quite tall enough to reach the press yet. She's working on it. We do have pictures of her when she was a baby. She came to the shop with Brian and I every day until she was about 18 months old. And I've got pictures of him wearing a baby carrier, making signs with, he's got her strapped in, and she's got a pacifier tied on one strap and toys tied on the other strap, and she's just hanging out. There's photos of her. She's in a little bouncy seat on the table surrounded by shirts where she could watch me print, and she'd be happy and look around. So she's got work shirts that if we say we go to the shop and do work, she'll go grab her work shirt and say, well, I'm dressed, I'm ready to go. So I'm sure one day she'll be screen printing shirts. So we don't waste any time teaching the kids the family business.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. But before we came on air, you were telling me a story about your daughter Paige that I really loved too, that she's your little marketing guru, I guess.
She's actually at home watching right now. She sent me a text message right before we went live that said she was waiting. So, hi Paige, I love you. Do your homework. She carries business cards in her school binder. And anytime there's any discussion with any clubs or anything else, like she'll walk up to teachers and be like, hey, we're going to need shirts for this or banners for this. And my mom and dad do that. Here's a business card.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, I love that for a couple of reasons. I mean, number one,
really big. We got one of her teachers is involved in a Wounded Warriors type organization called the Joshua Chamberlain Society. And they do Bike for Heroes every August. It's a big fundraiser for them. And she gave her teacher was talking about it. And she was like, here's my mom's business card. They do shirts. You should talk to her about it.
Oh, well, what I love about that the most is you said she's what, 13?
13 now. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, there are grown-up adult people who don't have the guts to do that. So she's getting so far ahead.
Yes. She comes with us. We do screen printing events, live screen printing events at marching band festivals and some other things. And she goes along with us, and she sits there at the front counter, and she takes money and takes people's orders, and she knows how to weed, and she knows how to heat press things. And she's spent many days up here in the summer if we're busy making league shirts or things like that. My girls, all of the kids have been up here weeding and helping out, and my older daughter, who's 17, has gotten into arguments with kids at school who wanted to buy things from other online printers that she's like, what? Why do you want to pay $20 for that shirt? Instead of getting it from my mom and dad, like that's
right.
What pays their bill. And has gotten in arguments with them where they're like, well, I think that's kind of disrespectful to say that, about your parents. And she goes, how's that disrespectful? How do you think they put food on the table? Like, this is what the bills.
Well, and I think Aaron has a really good comment here. He just said the future of our industry. And I think he's totally right in that, these kids are getting such value. But what I really love is the guts these kids have, because like I said, there are a lot of adults that would have a problem going up to somebody and saying, why are you buying that from these people? You could get it from me. And you got your kids out there fighting for you. I love it.
Yep. We have some of our biggest, clients we've gotten are from our kids, things that they've been involved in, and making connections with people, showing up to things as parents, and then making connections through them, through being parents, and saying, we do things for their marching band, we do things for their clubs at school, the drama clubs that they're in, and things like that. Like, our kids have been some of our best salespeople. But yeah, Paige is very much the one. She's out there. She's got a heck of business cards, handing them out to people, left and right. So she really should be making a commission at this point.
She is watching. She says she loves you, Mama.
She is watching. I love you too.
And thank you for watching, Paige. I think you're awesome. I would love to see more young women who had your drive and ambition. I think that's terrific. And I think really, go ahead. Whoop.
I think it helps, like, even if they don't stick with, take over working for us, and go everything they're learning from watching us helps them later in life. They see how hard we're working every day and what it takes to run a business, and how and be a parent, and on all those things. I would say, there's a large age gap between the older kids, Olivia, and having older kids and then having a new baby is completely different experience than having a bunch of smaller kids.
Right.
Because they have seen firsthand what it's like to be a parent, and they've seen firsthand what it's like to be a parent and own a business, and what both of those experiences take.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, they're getting a very realistic view of something that a lot of people think is, oh, I'm going to own my own business and I can slack off and put my feet up and I can take vacations. They're getting and I mean, they're seeing what it actually takes to really do that, which I think more kids would have that experience.
Absolutely. My kids understand that if I'm taking a day off to go do something with them, that time has to be paid back somewhere. If I'm not going to work on a Monday, then that means I'm going in Saturday. Like, they get that. It's not like a typical corporate 9-to-5 job where I can leave things on the desk Friday afternoon and not have to think about it again until 9 a.m. Monday morning. Grace, especially, all the kids really, but my 17-year-old Grace likes to tease us that we're nerds because Brian and I watch so many podcast videos and follow so many groups about screen printing and marketing and all this stuff. And I'm like, look, this is what pays the bills. This is what you have to learn so that you can, stay relevant and stay ahead in the industry and get better at what you do and not be complacent. And not just in what we do, but in all things in life. And they get that, like, whether they realize it or not, they all, when we go out places and they'll see shirts and things, when they get shirts from events and other organizations, they're very judgy the quality of print that they're receiving.
I love it.
But so my older daughter, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I want to hear what you had to say.
They're very, we've my Paige just got a shirt from being a student of the month in November and won't wear it because it's such an awful print. She goes, she goes, no offense to the people who did it, but they obviously need to work on their technique. The registration is awful on this. So they're very they're very vocal about knowing how things should be done and knowing if things look right and in the the industry and stuff. And for kids who aren't in this building printing shirts every day, they know a lot about printing shirts.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming you guys have, you may not have actually put them to work, but they've been at the building and at the business to see you guys do stuff.
Yeah, they've we've got an area set up upstairs where I am now, that they can come and do homework and things like that. If when they were younger and weren't able to stay home by themselves, that they could come to work with us, and so they'd watch us work. One of the girl loved to weed heat transfer vinyl. Sure. So they've weeded a lot of things in their life. Unboxed shirts, unfolded shirts, fold shirts as they came off the presses. I was printing them. They've watched me standing at our manual press, printing for hours upon hours all day long. So they've seen the work involved in it, and they know what a good ethic is, and what good work, quality work looks like. And not just, the girls and my older son, all kids will tell people, like, it's not for my parents, it's not just a shirt, it's not just a sign. Like, they put their, I am physically touching every shirt. Like, every shirt is important to, and they get that. And they're like, you don't get that from somebody online.
No, I mean, they don't have, it's not as immediate as it is if you're right there.
Yeah.
And you have to look at, especially if you have to look at these shirts all the time, you want to make them the best they can be.
Yep.
Because you don't want your daughter going, oh, that looks awful.
Yeah.
Oh, too funny.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to circle back to the raising strong women, because obviously you know how to do this. I want to circle back to that in a little bit, but I want to ask you about something else first, which is the Here for Good campaign, because part of the info that you sent me, you guys participated in that. And I know that was something that was pretty big earlier in the year, earlier in 2020. How did that work out for you? Did you think that was successful for you?
I do. I think it was very successful for us. We did the campaign for the county that our business is in, and then the county that we actually live in, and their neighboring counties. And we're just outside the St. Louis metropolitan area. So we tried to really help our areas, which weren't affected from. We didn't have severe shutdowns like mostly, because we're in rural Missouri. Things were a little laxer. But there were a lot of restaurants had to close for indoor dining. Some of the schools just completely closed. We had a lot of photography businesses that weren't able to do their work because of social distancing rules and things like that. Sure. So we had, I want to say, about 30 businesses that participated, and we were able to raise, I want to say, close to $3,000 total for the businesses. And we had a local church that matched everything, that matched for donations to everybody. So it worked out really well.
That's very cool.
So it went really well for us. It was, I think for us, it was more an opportunity to kind of pivot where we were at in the market, because schools and little leagues are our biggest clients. And when the schools shut down in March and all the little leagues got canceled for the spring, everybody was kind of like, okay, I don't know what to do now. And so this was something we were able to do to help our own business while helping businesses that were also struggling because of this. Right.
And I think that, well, I have had some contact with Sloan Coleman, and I know what her goal was with this whole thing. So I was just curious how that worked out for you. And I saw you got some coverage from the local paper about it. And so the publicity was probably helpful too. Did it bring people in for other things too?
It did. It brought us a lot of attention from people who didn't necessarily know what we did or know about us, and brought a lot of goodwill business to us. They were like, look, I don't need to necessarily participate in the Here for Good campaign, but I appreciate you trying to do something to help, and I want to be a part of working with you on something else.
And I think that was part of the whole original idea, was that it was not only going to help businesses by generating funds, but hopefully generate goodwill. So I think it was a really smart initiative. So I was just interested in how that went for you. And how did you guys hear about it? Or
we're not that far from Sloan, about 45 minutes away from her.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So she had put this out here, and started this campaign. I kind of wanted to become a nationwide thing. And so we reached out to her and said, hey, would you, are you cool with us doing it for our area? We're close to you, but we're not trying to infringe upon who you're doing. And she said, absolutely, the more the merrier. And so we were able to talk with her and work with her, and we, shared that, look, she came up with this idea. It was a great idea because it not only helped the print industry, who was, I don't think most people realize how impactful COVID has been on the print industry. Because if you're not having events, you don't need signs, you don't need apparel, you don't need anything to go along with it. And
I think because
so there are a lot of
don't understand
it, that all the trickle down from it. Yeah.
If you don't have sports, then you don't need jerseys and you don't need hats, and 100%.
And and it's been that way, all year. And so it's the For Good campaign was a good way of saying, hey, we're here, we're still, it's impacting us in the same way that it's impacting restaurants, and it's impacting the tourism industries and things like that. So it was beneficial for us to be a part of that campaign, to let people that, you're not just helping these businesses over here that are impacted, you're also helping our small business too.
Well, and I think it was genius on Sloan's part, definitely. But I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone who actually participated. So I wondered what it did for you guys. So that's interesting to know.
Yep. I would participate in it again in a heartbeat. So that's
my next question. So there you go.
Doing another one. Yeah.
Oh, too funny. Well, okay. I want to switch back to what I really wanted. Now you said Grace is 17, Paige is 13, Olivia's almost 4.
Almost 4.
Almost 4. And then there's one more daughter?
Yes, she's 24.
Okay. So you've got an age range here of.
Yes.
Because I really wanted to think. Go ahead.
We've got 4 grandchildren on top of that. We've got 3 granddaughters and a grandson. So we're really, all stages of life in here.
Wow, a lot of young women that not that I want to imply that young men are not important, because they are too, but given the subject of this podcast, we're going to go with the women. So I guess I don't even really know where to start with this. I've been mulling over questions in my head. And I guess the first thing is role models. I mean, obviously you're a good role model. They've seen you working, but what kind of messages have you wanted them to see, I guess, if that makes sense?
I think that makes sense. I think for me, the message that I've always tried to give my girls is that there's not anything they can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one thing to say that, but to actually emulate that. You know, my son started playing Little League football, and I knew about, you know, I'm the youngest. My brothers are quite a bit older than me. I'm the only girl. And so, you know, I knew about football, but I wasn't, you know, invested in football. And then when my son was 7, he started playing in Little League, and I started, getting more into it because it was something he was into. And so I wanted to share that with him. And through that, I ended up learning a lot about football and ended up help coach his team. And that's something I always tried to the girls saw me out in the front yard running plays with him, going over his playbook, look, it doesn't have to be a boy sport just because boys play it. You can enjoy this game too. And Paige actually did play football one year because that's what she didn't want to play soccer or anything else. She played flag ball and plowed some poor boy over that got in her way, all 50 pounds of her. So she had the ball. He was in her way. She trucked right over him. So
she knew what to do.
She made Mama proud. That's
there you
right.
Go. Well, I have to ask though, because this is something that I have experience with, because my father was a leader for my Girl Scout troop when I was a cadet, which is like junior high school, so 13 through 15.
Yeah.
And people thought that was really weird because he was a man. And did you get that when you were working with the football team, that people thought that was weird?
I did. They were like, I would be out there and I would be running some drills with the boys, and people kind of look at me like, well, why is she out here doing that? But I was probably tougher on those boys than the other coaches were. They would they'd be, horsing around and not paying attention, and I'd go make them run a lap. And the friend of mine who was the head coach on the team was like, I don't really know we should be making them do that. I'm like, well, then they should have been listening to me when I told them to go run this route. And I was tougher on them than what the guys were. But
oh, that's funny.
I got it a little bit, not as much as what you would think, just because we are a small town and and it's Missouri, everybody likes high school football. So there's it wasn't as weird of a thing as one would think. But there were some, when Paige played football the year that she did, there were a lot of parents that were very supportive of her, and they were happy to see her out there on the team, and never gave her a second glance or gave me a second glance for being a coach. And I was glad to see, her willing to put herself out there and do something that was a little bit against outside the norm, and doing all then. And, and not really worrying about what other people thought about her doing. It was something she wanted to do. It was something she wanted to experience, much in the same way that I chose to help coach Wyatt's team.
Right. Well, and I think also, I mean, back when my dad was leading my Girl Scout troop, this was the early 80s. I'm assuming when you were coaching the football team, it was, 20 years or so later. So I think attitudes have
attitudes
I know
changed, and
I'm old, but attitudes people are more accustomed to seeing people doing things that maybe aren't, wouldn't have been something women would have done or men would have done for that matter.
Right.
So I just think that's interesting.
My Grace, my 17-year-old, made the comment when I was telling the kids that I was doing this podcast that she and what the subject matter of it was, she made a very good point of, most households have both parents that work. If it, but our society has not evolved to the point of having both parents that work. It's still, we're still very set up for, we're still very set up as expecting one parent to be always available.
And usually the mother too.
The time that the mom, absolutely.
Yeah.
Brian had to take Paige to the doctor this morning and had to fill out paperwork, and he was like, I don't know that I did any of that right. And the next time you take the kids to the doctor, you're going to have to recheck the paperwork that I filled out because I don't know that I updated it correctly.
Uh-oh. Well, I mean, what I think is so, okay, I'm 52. So I grew up in I'm 51. I'll be 52 in a couple of weeks. So I'm not quite 52 yet. But I grew up in the 70s and 80s. My mother always worked from the time I was a little kid. But that was even, it was even more rare when I was growing up. And I never, because I had that example, I was always like, yeah, I'm going to work. I'm going to have a career. I'd rather do that than get married, which is what ended up happening. But I think it's interesting how the attitudes have kind of changed a little bit. And now I hope you see a lot more younger women going, yeah, I'm going to have a career and I'm going to have a partner that's going to, because I also think back to what you said about Brian carrying Olivia in the Snuggly or whatever while he was working. That's got to be part of it too. You've got to have a partnership where you're both taking care of the kids.
Yep. And it's not reliant solely on one parent that does everything.
Right. Right. And I
think that's been part of what has worked for, for our kids and the example we're setting with them of, I'm mom, but there are nights that, if we have shirts that have to get done, that Brian's the one that goes home and helps the girls make dinner and they eat, and then I come and he does baths and bedtime and homework and all of that stuff. We have to all be in this together. It's really what we've tried to put to the girls of, you can do whatever you want. And if you want to, if you want to be successful in whatever you're doing, find yourself, surround yourself with people that help you be successful, whether that's, a spouse, whatever it may be, a tribe of friends, whatever it is. Find people that help you be successful. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't get done what I needed to get done if it wasn't for Brian. He wouldn't be able to get done what he needed done if it wasn't for me. We have to, it has to be a teamwork and a partnership. And that's what I want to show them. Like, you can, if you want to have a career, have a career. If you want to, just make sure that, that if you're with someone that they understand, they're in it with you and they're there to support you.
Well, and I have to wonder because, you're a blended family. Like you said, 2 are his, 3 are yours, and then 1 is yours and Brian's. So you already had experiences where you knew how it didn't work. So I'm guessing you and Brian probably did a lot of work to make sure that this would work.
Yes. And something that I tell my kids, especially my girls, is something, I was a single parent for several years, for a few years. Brian was a single parent.
Right.
He had full custody of his kids. We came into this relationship, we choose to be together. I know that if something happened, God forbid, I could do this by myself tomorrow. No questions. I've already done it. I know how to do this. Same for him. He can do this. Choose each other every day.
Right.
And we choose to do life together, and we choose to do this together. And that's what I try to tell girls is, that relationships are great, love is great, whatever, but marriage can be hard, and you have to make the choice every day to be with that person, especially when it's somebody that you work with and you're together all the time.
Oh yeah. Well, what I love about that is that they're getting a realistic view of what it, that this isn't like you fall in love and he's a prince and you're a princess and everything's, you actually, it's a choice and it's work. And I think especially more young women need to be taught that, because you find some people who have very unrealistic expectations of what a relationship or a marriage or whatever is going to be. And I don't know. Yep. I think, I wish somebody had told me that back when I was in my late teens and early 20s, because I could have been saved a lot of, not great relationships if I'd known that. But I love that you guys are doing that. I think that's great. And I just really, one of the things that I wanted to ask too is, like I said, I'm 52. So the attitudes that I was brought up with, I think have changed. But what messages are young women getting nowadays? Because I have to confess, I don't have a lot of contact with like teenagers now. Well, especially now. Oh, your husband just chimed in with Frozen movie quote, "You can't marry a guy you met today."
Absolutely. That is Frozen is a great movie. We wrote it a lot in our house. We have a lot of girls. But that is a great line from that movie. And I was so glad to see that put them in, because so many, thinking about, when we were younger and movie narratives growing up, we're all, you meet the guy, you fall in love, that, you live happily ever after. And it's not like that, whether you're in a situation like Brian and I, where we work together, or you're not working together, it's still work every single day. And that expectation of, oh, I met this guy and he's the love of my life, it's love at first sight, we're going to go run off and get married. It doesn't work that way. And having that in that movie and putting that narrative out there of you can't marry a man you just met. Like, that is absolutely 100% true. Don't marry a guy you just met.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I think you're making a really good point about, because I was just thinking about it, the movies that I watched when I was growing up, the prince saved, it was, Cinderella or Snow White or Sleeping Beauty. The prince came in and saved the princess, and then then her life, she had no agency in any of it. She was just like lying there beautifully asleep.
She had no value outside of him coming and saving her. Yes. All of her value lied in the prince.
Yes. And there was no scene where she went, screw this, I'm saving myself, Yes. And I
really want my kids to see that, like, don't wait for someone to come save you. Save yourself. If, we tell the kids a lot, to be the change you want to see in the world.
Yes.
If you want something to be different, if you want something in life, no one's going to do it for you. No one's going to wave a magic wand and make it happen. You have to put the work in for it. You have to step up and do it yourself. And and save yourself. If you want, my 17-year-old wants to be a forensic anthropologist.
I love that.
She's been accepted. Yes, she's been accepted to college. She's ready to go. We went on a tour in September. We got to meet with one of the anthropology professors, and she was showing her some cold cases that they're working on. And Grace would have been completely happy for me to just leave her there that day. She was ready to go that day. Let's do this. Man. I'm ready to start college.
I want to come and hang out with your daughters.
They're very cool. I've got cool kids, so I'm pretty lucky. But they, she was ready to go, and she has her goals. She has aspirations. She knows what she wants to do in life, and she long ago, 17 years ago, whenever it was, when we were having discussions about, bodies and babies, how things happen, and she declared then, look, I am not ever risking the chance of getting pregnant because I am not getting stuck with some kid while he gets to go run out and do whatever the hell he wants, and I'm stuck at home raising this baby. I got things to do. And I hope she thinks that for at least another 10 years. But there, she has goals and aspirations, and I want her to do those things and not let herself be held back by anything. And that's the big, that's part of me doing this show right now is, it's out of my comfort zone. It's out of the norm for me. I'm not comfortable with this kind of thing, but I want them to see that
awesome.
You can do things outside of your comfort zone, and you can do things that make you a little nervous and scared and survive. It'll be okay, and good things can come from it.
Well, and I think discussions like this are important, because if we don't start talking about what we're teaching young women, they're going to end up with the same messages that I got. And I don't necessarily know that a lot of what I was told served me all that well. Like I said, coming from a very different time period. I was basically told you need to be pretty so you can get married so a man will take care of you. Which, being me, I was like, nope. I'm very much in the Grace mode. I'm like, I got shit to do, man.
I got time to waste on you.
Yeah, I don't need this crap. I got stuff to do. But I think, and I think we have made progress. I mean, as the quote from the movie that Brian put up, that's a message that's very different than the Disney movies that came out in the, 60s or 70s or whenever they were. So, and
I think it's those kinds of messages that I'm trying to put out there to my kids. And then I'm glad that they're seeing in movies like that. And they're seeing where more movies where the girl is saving herself, not just waiting for the guy to come fix the problem for her. She takes the initiative and does it herself. And to touch on something that you talked about in last week's episode about asking for help, it's good to be strong and independent, but a good quality of that is knowing that it's not weak. It's not a weakness to ask for help. It's a strength, and knowing to utilize the tools and the people around you to get things done, and not letting your own, not letting fear hold you back from, fear of being vulnerable, of being, seeming weak, fear of embarrassment, whatever it may be, to go, put yourself out there, make, take the initiative and do what you want to do.
Well, and I think you said something really powerful a little bit back, and I want to circle around to it, which is surround yourself with people who are going to push you forward and support you in what you do.
Yep.
And that sometimes takes some thought, because it's easy to kind of let people get away with stuff, you know, because you don't want to make waves, or you know, otherwise you like the person or their family, you know, or whatever it is. And it's like, that I think is important, especially for women. You've got to have people, both men and women, who are supporting you and pushing you to do, you know, who you surround yourself with and who you interact with makes a huge difference, I think.
Right. And,
so,
you know, something that I've tried to teach my girls is to, and all my kids, is that to find people who build you up. You know, if you call a friend and, you know, something good, really good happens for you today, and you call this friend up and you're like, oh my gosh, you'll never guess what happened. And you share your exciting news. And if that friend isn't, regardless of what has happened that person's day, if they aren't sharing any of your excitement with you, they're not a good friend. You know, if their first thought is to, well, I have to bring you down to my level, you know, I had a shitty day, I can't be happy for you because I had a shitty day. That's not a good friend. That's not how that works. They should still be happy and supportive of you, and then share, so happy for you, I'm so glad this happened, this is so great. And then say, well, you know, I you know, I'm sorry if I'm not quite, you know, excited enough or whatever. But they you know, being there in the moment for you is important. And it's something that I think, as girls, especially, because girls can be very cliquey, and catty, and I think we have to teach our girls better than that. I think we have to start as parents to, you know, be support, you know, like I think there's a meme that's out there somewhere in the world that no one supports you in life like online friend you've never met. Because, you know, I've got a tribe of online friends, and, you know, I told them I was doing this podcast, and they were the excited people in the world for me. They all know that I'm awkward and weird and don't like public speaking, and they were like, you've got this. You can 100% rock this. And, you know, and we need to teach our girls to be that person, you know, all the time. You know, find your people and build them up and be there for them through the good, through the bad, whatever. And the people who
I totally agree with that, because
you need to know how to cut those people out of your life and know what's healthy and what's toxic, and not allow toxic people purchase in your life and to, you know, suck the life of you.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. Well, yeah, definitely. And I think once you learn that, your life is so much better, because you're not getting all these messages about, you know, how you should be, especially with women. I was talking about this when I was talking with Erin on Saturday, that sometimes women are made to be small, you know, because we're not supposed to take up too much space or be too good at anything, because, you know, it'll make men uncomfortable, it'll make other women uncomfortable. And I'm like, you know what? I want to be as big as, I mean, not literally, but I want to be as big as I can possibly be. I want to do everything I can do to make things more interesting and better. And I think we would all be doing that. And that's what I think we should be teaching young women.
Absolutely. There's a difference between teaching your kids to be respectful and teaching your kids, you know, we were taught when we were younger, and yeah, the message when we were younger was to, you know, not make waves, not make people uncomfortable. To always take, you know, it's selfish if you ask for things for self and or put yourself in a position to be first. And I think we have to not, I think that's a disservice to girls especially.
Right.
And teaching them that, you know, there, and that goes along with the narrative of, you know, finding a man that can take care of you. You know, if you know how to take care of yourself, you don't need anybody else to take care of you. And I think it's important that we teach kids, it's, you know, not to be, you know, it's fine to be respectful of people and not go intentionally out trying to hurt people's feelings, but at the same time, you know, not be a doormat and allow people to walk over them or treat them poorly just because they don't want to cause a scene, they don't want to ruffle feathers or upset anyone. I am sure that my husband would agree that I have no problems making my opinion heard on certain things. So I've tried to be a role model in my children of that. If it's something that you believe in, then you stand your ground. If you're wrong, you should admit it, which does not always come easily to me. But you know, don't be a doormat. Don't sacrifice yourself to, you know, just for the sake of someone else, which I feel like was a narrative for women for a long time.
Shoot. Yeah, I think you're right. And the internet has decided to go wonky now, which it waited almost till the end.
It did.
But it looks like, so I hate to cut this short, but it looks like my internet's going funky again. So I think what I'll do is, will you come back and talk to me again when I have the internet back where it's supposed to be?
Yes, absolutely.
Whoop, did we? All right, well, I'm gonna cut this short before it decides to just go boom altogether. And I apologize because this has been a great discussion and I wish we could do more of it today, but until I get the internet straightened out here, apparently not. So I'm going to let you go and I'll say thank you to everybody, and I will have you back once my internet will behave itself and we'll talk some more. Does that work?
Absolutely. That sounds perfect.
All right. Thanks, Myra. I appreciate it. I'm going to pop you out now. I'm sorry, everybody. That was a great discussion. I hope you got most of it. The internet is still apparently having issues here. I'm not entirely sure what's up with that. I will get it fixed. But anyway, thank you for being with us today. Y'all are great. And I will keep you updated on the internet status and what's happening, and maybe get moved to the studio upstairs. So thank you for watching today. Thank you to Myra. You were amazing. It was a great discussion. And I'm sorry the internet decided to be annoying. So I'll pop out and I'll see y'all soon.